afternoon. It's IndyCar racing from Toronto, Canada. Last year, defending champion Bobby Rahal was challenging Emerson Fittipaldi for the lead. Rahal pitted, but heard his crew's warning of water in the pits too late. Rahal slid past and out of the battle for good. He would finish third on the day. On the last lap of the race, Emerson Fittipaldi was trying to keep a charging Danny Sullivan at bay when they collided in the last turn. It was a spectacular finish they both remember well.
I was lucky in a sense to get that shot at Emerson, because going into the last lap, I was about 3 or 4 seconds behind him and he got held up in traffic. And it was fun. I mean, Emerson's a great guy to race with, but he's a cagey old guy, and I think he realized that he had left the door open a little bit too much, and he had to close it before I went through.
It was an incredible finish. I think it was one of the toughest finish I have had on my racing career. And I remember that when I saw Danny come on my inside, and I on my mind, I said, there's no way he's going to pass me there. But I think I always, a situation like that, I think the opposite. If I'd be on Danny's place, I would do the same. And I'm sure if Danny would be on my place, he'd do the same. Then I have no complaint about that.
Emerson Fittipaldi had no complaints a year ago. Well, if he had any complaints this year, it might concern the weather. It rained all last night. It is clearing off, but today it is going to be hot and humid. Hello, everybody. I'm Charlie Jones, and welcome to Toronto. When we were here a year ago, Bobby Rahal had already run away with a driver's championship. He went on to win his second title. But this year, it's a different story. Look at the standings. Rick Mears and Danny Sullivan tied for the lead with 56 points. They are tied because Danny Sullivan has already picked up 1 point for winning the pole position here. All the way down through the top 8. Michael Andretti, 41 points, just 15 off of the lead. Now, the winner today, 20 points, second place, 16, 14, 12, and on down the line. Joining me in today's telecast, 3-time world driving champion Jackie Stewart. Why the closeness of the race?
I think, Charlie, the problem was last year it was not a particularly competitive year. The Ilmore Chevrolet was having a lot of reliability problems. It just wasn't quick enough. And the Penske chassis were not competitive. They had no grip at all. All of that has changed. So Bobby Rahal last year had a sort of free run. This year, not the case. What's happened now is the Penskes are really competitive, and you see Rick Mears and you see Danny Sullivan up there. The Ilmore Chevrolet is competitive this year, and although the Cosworth Ford is still strong, it's not quite as strong. So it's a much closer package this year of competition.
Who do you like today?
I'd have to choose Danny Sullivan simply because of his road racing experience. Although Mario Andretti, another great world champion road racer, he should be up there. And I think maybe Unser Jr. should be taken into the connotation.
The Indycars on NBC.
This NBC Sports special presentation of the Toronto Indy is brought to you by Toyota. There's quality, then there's Toyota quality. Who could ask for anything more? By Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Pennzoil Motor Oil. World-class protection. And by Domino's Pizza. Because Domino's Pizza delivers.
Welcome back to Exhibition Place in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Now let's take a look at the starting grid today as the sun has broken through. It is a beautiful afternoon for racing. On the pole is Danny Sullivan with a new track record of 106.314 miles per hour. Mario Andretti is outside row 1. He won in Cleveland 2 weeks ago. Row 2 is Unser Jr. All 5 of his IndyCar wins have been on a road course. Outside, Emerson Fittipaldi, the defending champion. Row 3, Bobby Rahal, who won here 2 years ago. Outside is Michael Andretti. Row 4, Derek Daly, an accomplished road racer with Formula One experience. And outside, Rick Mears. He won his 3rd Indy 500 this year. Row 5, Raul Boesel, 5th in the point standings. And outside is Teo Fabi, who won the Indy pole as a rookie in 1983. Row 6, Didier Taze, the 1987 ARS champion. Outside, R.E. Lyondike, who many experts feel on the verge of his first IndyCar win. Row 7 is John Jones from Thunder Bay, Canada, the top rookie of the year. Outside is John Andretti. He's Mario's nephew. Row 8 is Kevin Kogan, who was 3rd at Long Beach this year. And outside, Ludwig Heimrath Jr., the hometown favorite here in Toronto. Row 9 is Randy Lewis. He hit the wall in yesterday's practice. You got to watch for him. And outside is Scott Brayton. Row 10, a total of 106 IndyCar wins on this row. A.J. Foyt has 67, the all-time high. And outside, Unser Sr. has 39. That's 3rd on the list. Row 11 is Howdy Holmes, who topped the $1 million career mark this year. And outside, Scott Atchison, who is 2nd in rookie point standings. Row 12, Tony Bettenhausen. Outside, Rocky Moran in his backup car with no time. Row 13, the sponsor's option, Dale Coyne, who operates a landscaping business in Plainfield, Illinois. That's the grid. Now let's go to Gary Gerould in the pits.
Well, Charlie, the success of Team Penske this year has been well chronicled. They have 3 victories. They've been on the pole 6 times. And, of course, Sullivan with a track record on the pole here in Toronto. A bit of an added advantage over his teammate Rick Mears and the rest of the field, because for the first time this year, he will be carrying one of these units right here. This is the Gen 2 fuel management system. It's a computer-like device that fits inside the car. It precisely measures out the most effective use of fuel. You get optimum fuel usage. Now, prior to this, Mario Andretti, the only Chevy driver who has had one of these in his cars, a potent combination, they won the last time out in Cleveland just 2 weeks ago. Mears and Sullivan flipped a coin to see who would get one. Sullivan has it. He hopes it'll help him win today. Charlie?
And now for the most famous words in racing.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
And the sound of 750 horsepower turbocharged engine now exploding against everyone's eardrums, rattling the fillings in your teeth and causing strange vibrations in your Adam's apple. It's time to go racing. And Jackie Stewart, for the driver, what is this time like?
It's a very nervous moment. I don't think there's a racing driver sitting in that field, no matter how experienced he is, who doesn't have butterflies in his stomach. The big key here is to have mind over matter. It's the mind that you have to control the emotions of the heart with, the clinical approach.
Now let's go down to Sally Larvick.
Thank you very much, Charlie. I am standing in Roberto Guerrero's pit. However, it is no longer Roberto Guerrero's pit. It belongs to Unser Sr. And that's because Unser was asked to drive for Guerrero after Roberto made a decision not to drive the next couple of races. And that's due to the fact that he suffered a severe head injury during a testing accident at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway nearly a year ago. And he's had trouble on the track ever since. No one knows how long Roberto is going to keep himself from driving. But if he keeps himself from driving until the Michigan race, then Granatelli has another problem. That's because Unser is obligated to Penske to drive all the ovals. So Granatelli is going to have to find himself another driver. It's been a tough season for the Granatelli team, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be any let-up. Charlie?
And Unser did not qualify all that well. Unser Sr. qualified back in the 10th row on board the kart cam of Unser Jr. And also we have an onboard camera with Ludwig Heimrath Jr. Car number 71. And we'll be back with the start of the race in Toronto in just a moment.
Manufacturers Cup Challenge. Toyota. Winner. IMSA GTO Series Championship. Toyota. The only manufacturer to ever win both car and truck championships in a single season. Winning technology. You'll find it reflected in every Toyota you buy. Toyota quality. Who could ask for anything more?
Every day, Jack Taylor and Joe Donovan take the same road home. But today, they went a little out of their way.
Give you a hand.
Here's to you, the clean, crisp taste of Beechwood-aged Budweiser.
This Bud's
For all the guys who go out of their way.
This Bud's for you.
This is the future, the leading edge of racing technology. The Pennzoil Z7 Special, powered by the Penske Chevrolet engine. Winner of the 1988 Indy 500. From day one, it has run on the world-class protection of Pennzoil motor oil. There is no other car in the world like it, and Pennzoil protects it. Pennzoil, world-class protection that exceeds U.S. warranty requirements of every car maker in the world.
A special feature's coming your way from Domino's Pizza to ruin the Noise Day. It's a really big show, so don't be late. 2 regular cheese pizzas for just $8.88. Pay a bit more for toppings. It's all hot and fresh, because it's at your door in 30 minutes or less. Hurry, this won't last forever. Savings like these may be now or never. Domino's Pizza delivers savings.
Jackie, let's take a look at today's road course.
Well, it is indeed a road course of first degree, not far from Toronto's city centre. The racetrack itself is demanding from a driver. You can see that we're still in car camera contact at the present time. But let's have a look at the track itself. Going around the track, you can see it's 1.78 miles around with 11 corners, a lot of gear shifting, about 24 gear shifts. But let's have a look at the track. From the start-finishing line, they head along to Prince's Gate. You can see that red line there. It's a 3rd gear corner. Then they accelerate out of there very hard with their 750 horsepower through turn 2, heading for the main backstretch, which is Lake Shore Boulevard at about 175 miles an hour to the hairpin. A 1st gear corner for Danny Sullivan on the pole, heading up there towards Stadium Turn, that you can see that there. A 3rd gear left-hander, then going into what we call the sweeper, because it's just accelerating all the way around up into 5th gear around there before what we call the S's. That's a sharp left, then right, and then along towards the start-finishing line, and certainly the most demanding corner, Exhibition Curve, at about 170 miles, 155 perhaps miles an hour as they warm up the tyres on the back stretch here. This is a way of being able to get the tyre temperatures up, Charlie.
Jackie, what is the key to the race?
The key to this race, oddly enough, is the first corner of the first lap. It's called Prince's Gate Turn, and there you could have a dreadful sort of traffic jam where you could see cars getting into contact with each other. You could see them damaging the front wings of their race cars. That would mean they would have to go into the pits. But if they really came together there, Charlie, you could see cars flying into the air. It's well known that if you have a slow corner just after the start of a race, you will always have multiple congestion and therefore incidents. So that would be my choice of deciding this race, good or bad, for any particular driver.
25 cars are starting, $600,000, 103 laps, and that is 300 kilometers, 183 miles. The race record is almost 96 miles an hour, as you saw. Now we're getting set for the green. The Minister of Industry, Travel, and Technology, the Honorable Monty Quinter, is the honorary starter.
Well, the pace car will go off the racetrack if we're going to get this green, and Danny Sullivan is the man with the choice of where he will be on the racetrack here to try and get, and he's supposed to control the speed of the start, Charlie, and if he gets the message, he will just gun it and get down to that first corner. Here they come, the pace car's off, Charlie.
And we look for the green. No, they put out the yellow. They put out the yellow.
And the reason they put out the yellow, the field were not in order. Danny had anticipated the flag, I think, and will have already taken a lead. The officials decided that it would not be a green flag because, frankly, the formation of the grid had been broken.
Everyone knows the key is what you talked about.
Yeah.
And so all the leaders have to be thinking in that terms to get the jump, to get through Princess Gate.
The biggest thing, you go in there, if you're at the front end of the starting grid, you're just waiting for someone to hit you in the back end, because if someone leaves their braking a little late with cold tires, and brand new cold tires, although they're brand new tires have been scrubbed off a little bit, they're cold and they're not just getting the grip as they would do when they get better heated up. So they don't have the same adhesion. So cars leaving their braking a bit late because the drivers are a wee bit edgy will suddenly start bumping into each other. And of course, when that happens, you really don't know what's going to occur.
Now, this lap does count. So there's 102 laps remaining if we get the green here.
And of course, that would be a case of fuel consumption coming into play, obviously. There's 1 or 2 cars in this race, particularly Bobby Rahal with a fuel management operation to try and go with maybe only 1 fuel stop, whereas the Ilmor Chevrolet engine would look towards making 2 fuel stops. So this could play a part because he would use a little less fuel. This is a slow lap, so you get good fuel consumption. Normally, fuel consumption in those race cars about 1.8 miles per gallon.
Now they're coming through the S's. They will come out of that through exhibition curve, and that's right before the start-finish line. There's the entrance to the pit.
And Danny's already starting to move, and Mario's got a little head on him this time.
And it is the green flag and the race for the first turn, and it is Sullivan who has it. And little Al jumps in right behind him.
1 car locked up their brakes, but they've got through there clearly. I think we're okay.
It is Sullivan, little Al Unser, and Mario Andretti, the first 3, as they now begin to string out as they'll go down Lakeshore Boulevard. That's the longest stretch, 6/10 of a mile.
Emerson Fittipaldi's well up there as well, but you see Sullivan still got it with Al Jr. in there. Then Fittipaldi looks like he's third, and then it looks like Michael Andretti maybe fourth. Michael Andretti in the blue and yellow car there, just going out of the picture with his father close behind, and then Bobby Rahal in the red car just behind him.
And then Rick Mears. And so the ones that we expected to be up front are up front at the beginning of the race.
Fittipaldi certainly made a good start, but little Al Jr., he certainly made a wonderful start. But it is Danny Sullivan, the pole sitter, and the only car really clinging on to him now is little Al. There's Emerson Fittipaldi, last year's winner, with Michael Andretti behind him as they come up towards exhibition curve. A very fast corner indeed, the most demanding corner, going down to Princess Gate, a beautiful part of the racetrack.
And we're on board with little Al Unser, who is currently running second and is now dropping just a little off of the pace being set by Danny Sullivan. Is there a reason for that, or is he looking just to find his timing?
No, he wants to be where he is, and you see them under braking. Danny's not giving him a lot of road there into the 100-meter board, and look how under braking he really catches up. Fittipaldi goes to have a look inside of Michael Andretti, doesn't quite see it this lap around.
So Michael Andretti continues in third. Emerson Fittipaldi is in fourth. Al Unser is in second. And Danny Sullivan has been leading right from the start here at the Toronto Indy. And amazing, I was surprised that we got through the first turn without any major problems.
Well, I think it shows considerable maturity of the drivers, because quite frankly, I expected at least 2 cars to be taken out in that first corner.
So it is Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi.
And that's just slow motion of Emerson Fittipaldi coming alongside just to have a look, but in fact he chose not to do it. It means that Andretti Jr. had got his braking distance just about right.
On board with little Al Unser Jr., our camera car. He is running second behind Danny Sullivan.
And certainly he can close up and Danny under braking. There, Danny is using first gear in a 6-speed gearbox. Look at the advantage that he takes there, Charlie. He and Mears are the only cars in the race with 6-speed gearboxes. That's 6 forward gears. The car that we're in right now, that of Al Jr., has a 5-speed gearbox. And you could see the advantage, certainly, in pulling out of that slow corner.
The hose part of his air conditioning system?
Yes, it is. It's bringing cold air into him, round his neck there, and getting into his uniform.
Inside the suit, right?
That's correct. And you can see that's for the G-forces, that other strap that goes on there. But certainly he's staying much closer to Danny Sullivan than Sullivan would prefer.
And so it remains Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr., Michael Andretti running third, Emerson Fittipaldi is fourth. Then it's Mario Andretti, Bobby Rahal, Rick Mears, Derek Daly, Raul Boisel, who had a start problem at the beginning, Theo Fabi, Ari Lyondike, and Didier Tays. But the name of the game right now is Danny Sullivan, and the subtitle is Little Al. Al Unser Jr. We'll be back in a moment.
That's it? That's all? You gotta be kidding.
You're done. Sure? If you thought dental cleanings were easy with Tartar Control Crest,
Can't believe it.
they just got easier.
Well, that was fast.
Introducing new and improved Tartar Control Crest.
You're all done? No.
The new tartar fighting formula that can actually help stop tartar before it starts.
Piece of cake.
Tartar Control Crest, the dentist's choice, is now harder on tartar and easier on you.
Thank you very much.
I stained this last year, and it's fading already. Why?
You didn't protect it with Thompson's Water Seal Stain.
Look at that streaking. Guess I used the wrong stain.
You did. Only Water Seal Stain contains Thompson's Water Seal, a formula that's better than the leading brand at protecting both the color and the wood, and this test shows it.
With Water Seal Stain, the next time won't be for a long time.
Thompson's Water Seal Stain. Beauty that lasts at last. Now available at selected paint, hardware, and home center stores.
Ah, the natives are restless, building appetites at a fever pitch. It's summer hunger. Summer hunger. Unleash it at Burger King. Enormous summertime sandwiches, big burgers, a huge flame-broiled Whopper, icy cold Pepsi. Summer hunger. When it strikes, only Burger King can tame it. Must be feeding time.
We do it like you do it at Burger King home free.
An American tradition continues. His 521 career home runs are the most ever by a left-handed National League batter. Willie Stretch McCovey was the Giants' big number 44. Now, slugger Will Clark powers the Giants as they face the Cardinals, or the Expos meet the Reds. The tradition is here. The memories are waiting.
We're back at Toronto. Mario Andretti was dropping back steadily and has gone into the pits. Let's go down to Sally Larvick. Sally?
Okay, Charlie, I was talking to Carl Haas, and he said as soon as Mario started out, the engine started misfiring. They were going to bring him in to change the spark plugs, but Mario went right on by. However, now you see he is in the pits, and he's having trouble. They're taking the side pod off. It may be an electrical problem. We'll just have to wait here and see. Bad luck for Mario Andretti. Charlie?
Mario, who's been running very well this week.
Oh, yes, and certainly one of the drivers I would have chosen, as I said at the top of the show, to really be the potential winner here, because his experience and knowledge, he knows road course racing, he knows street racing such as this very well, and sadly it's out for him. He's a great racing driver, one of the great all-round drivers, has won Le Mans, has won the Daytona stock car race, the NASCAR championship race down there, the 500, has won the World Championship, has won Indianapolis. He's really one of the all-rounders of this business.
And they continue to work on Mario's car. In 72 starts, 21 road race victories, and very comfortable on the road, as you mentioned.
I think
it's a different technique on the roads than it is in the oval.
Oh, totally. And he's one of the drivers, of course, that came over from originally oval track racing to drive road courses, even though he was born in Italy, came to Nazareth, Pennsylvania when he was about 14 years of age. Born an Italian, now naturalized American, but he certainly, his first skill was oval track racing, and he certainly adapted to road course racing as if he were going back home.
And so Mario now coming out of the pits, and of course has dropped way back in the competition, still being led by Danny Sullivan with Al Unser Jr. running second. Mario's son Michael Andretti is third. The defending champion Emerson Fittipaldi is running fourth. Then it's Bobby Rahal, Rick Mears, Derek Daly, Raul Boisel, Theo Fabi, Ari Lyondike, Kevin Cogan, and Didier Tays. And we're on board with Al Unser Jr.
He is getting treacherously close to Danny Sullivan. If I were Danny Sullivan, I would be becoming a very nervous driver. How much he's looking in his rear view mirror is another matter, but he is, in fact, getting very close as a young man. And there, of course, is Mario Andretti, right back down now because he's been lapped at least a couple of times.
And his pit stop 1 minute and 45 seconds, so down at least, you're right, down at least 2 laps. Now let's go down to Gary Gerould.
Well, it's interesting, Charlie, that this team, and little Al Unser's team, headed by Rick Gallis, they came in with a great deal of optimism. You know, they've been starting this year no better than fourth, but 4 times they've started in that position. They moved up a notch this week. They tested early this week down in Big Springs, Texas, got 800 miles of testing in. They were very confident coming here, and already we can see it paying off as he challenges and stalks Danny Sullivan in the early stages.
Now let's go to Sally Larvick.
Is back into the pits. They apparently got him working when he was in, got his car working when he was in just a couple of minutes ago. They let him go. Everything seemed to be okay. They brought him back in again, and now they're changing the black box. And the black box is the instrument that has all the electrical connections in it. Hopefully they'll get a change and we'll get Mario out again on the track. Charlie?
All right, Sally. Now, perhaps the reason that they are working on it now, wanting back in the race, is next week, and NBC will be there to cover it. We're running at the Meadowlands, so you might as well at least work on the car and get some time in.
Well, you do your testing here now for him. And look at this. There's an attempt to be passed here, but Sullivan's not having it. Young Al came alongside there, and Danny in traffic just closed the door. It does seem to me on the long back stretch, which is a 175-mile-an-hour stretch, and it looks very close to me. I think the young man is going to pass Danny Sullivan. It looks like the Ford Cosworth is maybe just a little bit better at the top end performance of at the maximum speed than the Elmore Chevrolet, while the Elmore Chevrolet has better torque and seems to be just a little bit better round some of the other parts of the racetrack. But the 6-speed gearbox may be helping, but I think Al Unser Jr. is going to take the lead here just in no time at all.
Now they're coming through the S's. Now exhibition curve, and then right by the start-finish line and into Fritz's Gate.
Now it's this next section, Charlie, that he's setting him up for. Now he's going to take a run at him, and he has been faster down the main straight. Now you watch him here. See if he gets into the slipstream, gets tucked in here, and here he comes. He's not quite close enough this time. You can see from the camera, and look how Sullivan's staying on the right-hand side of the road so that he doesn't allow Unser to get up inside him under braking.
He wants to be inside, right side of him as they come down the straight into the hairpin.
He's nearly doing it again. Now there's a situation where they could have kissed wheels very easily. So Sullivan is driving as hard as he can, and it could be that his tire temperatures are now getting up a little too high, and the performance of his car, chassis-wise, is not quite as good. If you overdrive the tires, they go past their best working temperature. So it's quite a delicate balance as to how hard and how aggressively you drive.
And again, they come through exhibition curve and by the start-finish line. Now, you may wonder when you watch IndyCar racing or any other kind of racing why the drivers are always ripping the visors off or different visors so they can see. But when you look through our onboard camera, you can see the problem that they have because we have protection there, like in front of the camera itself. And it becomes a bit messy as you drive.
And you can see these bugs, and of course they do these rip-offs as they go along because sometimes it's oil. When you're this close to another car, there's the vapor that comes out the exhaust, and of course it can be very damaging. Normally they have washers on some of these camera lenses, but of course you can't have that in your helmet. It seems that Sullivan's moved away a little bit there.
And so the leader is Danny Sullivan with Al Unser Jr. in second. That is Michael Andretti, Emerson Fittipaldi, and Bobby Rahal, the top 5. In Toronto with 15 of 103 laps completed. Danny Sullivan continues to lead. Al Unser Jr. is in second, followed by Michael Andretti, Emerson Fittipaldi, and Bobby Rahal. And we're watching from the onboard camera of Al Unser Jr. as he chases Danny Sullivan, and they're beginning to run into a bit of traffic.
They are indeed, as Danny Sullivan gets through that traffic there, car number 21, and there Al Unser Jr. gets round it now. They get to Prince's Gate. And Al Unser Jr. just behind, and a car stopped on the left-hand side. Yellow flags going, and Danny Sullivan, there's the pass because Danny Sullivan came off the power there with those yellow flags being waved. Al Unser Jr. is taking advantage. He does a rip-off there, takes a lens off his visor, and he's now in the lead.
Kevin Cogan's in the wall. Kevin Cogan is in the wall.
Being hidden by the break-up truck there, the breakdown truck. He was in the car. He's left front of the car's badly damaged, but it looks to me like Kevin's okay. He had his visor up. He was moving around quite comfortably.
And they have got Mario Andretti started again in the pits, the second time that he has been in the pits today, very early on in the race, with 16 laps complete out of 103. Now let's go down to Gary Gerould.
Charlie, we're standing by for the leader, little Al Unser. He'll be coming in for a stop. This is going to be much earlier than normal because of we expected it would be about 35 laps or so, but he came and blew through the pits, and he didn't get the stop, so he goes back around. But of course, he has the luxury of the yellow here now, so he'll tag the field and try it again next time. We looked up, and suddenly he wasn't here, and we were watching Danny Sullivan right behind the safety car going by us on the front straightaway. So the team comes back to the wall, and he either elected not to come in, or he'll come back around next time. We'll just wait and see.
What happened, Jackie?
Well, I can't understand why he would come in through pit lane and not come to a stop, because that would have been an unnecessary interruption. I just don't understand his logic in that.
All right, we'll be back with more of the Toronto Indy in just a moment.
My dad and I have owned Ford trucks for as long as...
Toronto Indy, we are still under the yellow. We expect the green in just a moment after 23 of 103 laps. Al Unser Jr. leads. Danny Sullivan is second. Michael Andretti third. Emerson Fittipaldi, the defending champion, is fourth. And Bobby Rahal is fifth. Pace car is off. We look for the green. Race summary, 23 laps complete, 2 leaders, 1 lead change, average speed just under 74.5 miles an hour. Al Unser Jr. with Danny Sullivan right behind him, and Michael Andretti moving through traffic, and he is in third.
He made a bold move in there. It did seem to me that there was a little bit of a chalk up, but the first 3 are away, and we've already had a spin out.
And that is Derek Daly. And the second...
And the engine is stalled in that race car. That's why he's not moving. He spun out there. It looks like he spun out at turn 2, and it looks like he stalled his engine. That's the problem there. In fact, it seems that it's just on the exit of Prince's Gate, really.
And he started in 7th position, Lola Cosworth. And the yellow flag is out just there as Al Unser Jr. on board camera, and he is the leader. Now, he came through the pits and kept on going. The only thing under the yellow, the only thing that we could assume happened was when he went into the pits, he was leading the race. He looked to see if Danny Sullivan, who was running second, came into the pits. He did not come into the pits. Al just raced right through the pits, came back out.
And gets no penalization for that because the pit lane is still considered the racetrack. And there is Michael Andretti putting on a little bit of pressure. It now looks like that Daly is moving off, so that hazard has been removed. These are the first 3 players in the game there. That's Unser, Sullivan, and Andretti.
Running 1, 2, and 3. A total of 16 cars are on the lead lap. And we now have 25 laps complete.
And it does seem that Michael Andretti is closing up a wee bit also, and Danny Sullivan, but in the meantime, Al Unser Jr. is just opening that gap to a very comfortable level. He really is a very good road racing driver, this young man.
You had a chance to go around the track here. It's in good shape.
It is very good shape. It's very smooth for a normal street racetrack. Normally you get a lot of manhole covers, a lot of bumps, a lot of undulations. Keep in mind, this is not used normally for road traffic as we know it. There's no trucks, no buses, no tram cars on this piece of road. This is really in the exhibition center, so therefore there's a lot of pedestrian traffic and of course car parking area, but not a lot of actual heavy vehicle use.
And the report on Kevin Cogan, he has a broken left forearm and has been taken to track medical for x-rays.
I think that was done by the front left wheel smashing into the side of the cockpit. Carbon fiber, composite carbon fiber is very strong. These race cars today are amazingly strong, but it did take a very forceful bang there, and I suspect that that's what did that damage to Kevin Cogan. Let's hope that the break is not too serious, and we'll see him back very soon.
Little Al is leading Danny Sullivan by 1.2 seconds. The road course here, 1.78 miles, 11 turns, 7 right and 4 left, a total of 103 laps, 300 kilometers, 183 racing miles. Now Now let's go down to Gary Gerould. Gary?
Charlie, down here with Rick Gallos, who is the car owner for little Al Unser. Clarify what happened when you shot through the pits but didn't stop.
We were going to pit, and I told Al to come in, and then right at the last moment, we saw where the pace car was and where all the cars were bunching, and we told him to stay out, and just as soon as we stay out, he was already in, so he went ahead and just came on in and didn't do anything wrong. He just picked up the same position he was when he left the pits.
Were you in danger with kart officials of being sent to the back of the pack?
They told me right away.
Well, Rick's being called away by the crew chief. They're checking, of course, on the progress every lap. Rick, were you in danger at all of being
Not at all. They came right over and told us we didn't do anything wrong.
Okay, so they're happy. They've still got the lead.
Gary, you said they were bunched up behind the pace car. Was they expecting the possibility of a green flag?
Yes, I don't think they were being informed about what condition the clear-up job on the Kogan car was, how far into that was progress being made, and I think they thought perhaps they were going to get a green flag, and they were frightened to lose their lead position, which is quite logical, but if they had had better information from around the track, clearly they probably would have chosen to stop.
This is Toronto Indy with Al Unser Jr. leading. Danny Sullivan is second, followed by Michael Andretti, Emerson Fittipaldi, and Bobby Rahal. We are back at Toronto, and we're looking at the pit of John Andretti, and there was smoke coming out. We were looking to see if there is a fire.
Well, I think it may be a turbocharger that's backfired. The driver's taking the steering wheel off, and he's going to step out. They're unplugging his radio system, and I think you'll find John Andretti will now be coming out of the car, undoing his seat belts, and yes, out he comes. I think the office is closed for him. I think there's enough damage done in the rear end there. I think probably one of the turbos have gone. It looks like a turbo fire.
What is a turbo fire?
Well, it's when there's all the pressure of the mixture of fuel and air doesn't get through, and it burns out. It combusts in the wrong place, and it gets into a vapor fire more than anything else, and it's generally a white fire that you see rather than the normal traditional burn-up that can be known. Of course, keep in mind that in this form of racing, they use alcohol, not gasoline, and you do not see flames when a fire takes place in these cars. It's just a haze, but just as dangerous.
Al Unser Jr. continues to lead. We have 30 laps complete of 103 with Danny Sullivan running second. Michael Andretti is third, but he has been at least dropping back. Emerson Fittipaldi is fourth. Bobby Rahal.
And he's now trying to find a way past Scott Braden, I think it is.
Yes.
And now he's finding it. Scott did not see him behind him earlier. He probably wasn't looking at his rearview mirror, and he probably wasn't getting the flags at that time. But young Al's found his way back. I might just correct something I said earlier. I suggested that Al Unser Jr. was using a Ford Cosworth engine. In fact, he also has got the Chevrolet engine, and there's Mario. He's being pushed away. Not a good day for Papa Andretti. As I was saying on the engine side, he also has a Chevrolet engine, but of course he's got the 5-speed gearbox, as I pointed out earlier, instead of the 6-speed. And there is the Bandit being pushed away. So two
John
Andrettis.
Two of the three Andrettis are out of the race. This is John, who is the nephew, and of course Mario Andretti. And still in the race and running third is Michael Andretti.
And it does look as if there's been a little close-up there. And look how fast Michael Andretti's pushing. He's pushing very hard, and so also is Danny Sullivan, who's closed up due to that traffic to a large extent on Al Unser Jr. They're closer than they were before, and one lap behind a slower car here just after a few corners can really diminish a lead dramatically.
How will Danny Sullivan try to set up little Al?
Well, what he'll do is he'll try and set him up coming through Prince's Gate as fast as he can, and we're now going through this fast left sweeper, which is exhibition curve. Now this is Prince's Gate. He'll try and get as close to young Al here to get a slingshot out of him, get up behind him on the straight that we're just approaching now, getting speeds of 175 miles an hour, but Al will get the draft from this car. He'll slingshot him to the right in a moment. Here he comes, and now Sullivan would normally try to get inside as well. Now Sullivan's going to try and get in the inside of the slower car, which he's clearly done. That's important. So therefore he's avoided a pass this time, has young Al.
Now let's go down to Gary Gerould. Gary?
Charlie, just a word relating to Danny Sullivan, who continues to chase little Al Unser. He's got a radio problem. The crew, Derek Walker, the team manager who's in communication with Danny, can hear Sullivan fine. Sullivan's having a problem getting in instruction from the pit. First pit stops are coming up. Don't know if that could be a factor or not, but it's just one of those little nuisances that can easily crop up and can affect your day at the office.
All right. Thank you, Gary. Raul Boisel just making a pit stop as he is coming out, number 30 on his car. The pit stop just over 60, almost 17 seconds, 16:49.
Well, as we look from our commentary position, we saw that from Gary's information about the problem of Danny Sullivan's information source, he's also getting pit signals being given to him, and they've given him pit 2 laps. So in one more lap after this, we will see a pit stop coming up for Danny Sullivan. And this is the traffic I was speaking of. Very difficult to get through this. And let's see how Al Jr. gets through. And Sullivan gets past as well. Very tricky. Raul Boisel now the sandwich between the two first and second runners.
And a chance for little Al to put some distance between himself and Danny Sullivan.
And surely he has. You see, Sullivan's not getting through, but young Al's come up behind some other slow-moving traffic. Let's see how he goes through. Sullivan's got past Raul Boisel now. It's a real mishmash of traffic. Very difficult because those drivers themselves in traffic are racing for their own positions.
Now he comes up behind his father, Al Unser Sr., who is driving the number 2 car for Roberto Guerrero.
And he's through. Sullivan nearly got nipped there. You saw the slower driver waving his hands. It would have been better for him in these conditions to just keep his hands on the steering wheel and just move over politely.
And it is little Al Unser Jr., who continues to lead, with Danny Sullivan running second as he goes around the Lakeshore hairpin.
And now Danny Sullivan is trapped behind Papa Unser, so this could be interesting because the old boy's crafty. He knows what he needs to do here, and if he just drives as fast as he can, it'll be very difficult for Danny to find a way past him unless Al Unser Sr. actually moves over. And of course giving his son a tremendous advantage in the meantime, but there he goes. Sullivan gets through.
And he got through on the right side just at the right-hand corner going into the S's, and the leader is Al Unser Jr. And there is Danny Sullivan, who is chasing him as he comes right by the opening to the pits. And with the traffic that they run into, Al Unser Jr. has
6 seconds.
6
about
seconds.
6 seconds now. He's taken advantage, and that is entirely based on traffic, particularly in such a tight road course as this. As in fact, I look over from our commentary position, Charlie, and they are now preparing for Danny Sullivan to come into the pits.
We cannot tell from here if Al Unser Jr. will be coming in at the same time. But now that you start playing the waiting game, do you come in now, or do you wait for the yellow?
Well, I think the answer is that Danny Sullivan's team have decided they've put their tires out. All the wheels are sitting out there. Looks like he's going to change rubber on all 4 corners as well as put the gas in.
And we have 36 laps complete of 103. Didier Taze has come in to the pits. And here comes Danny Sullivan into the pits.
So the leader has continued through. He's not stopping on this lap, but certainly Sullivan is.
Now let's go down to Gary Gerould.
Charlie, here's Sullivan coming right straight at us. He hits the mark, the watch is engaged, the impact wrenches. This team has been spectacular this year with some sensational IndyCar pit stops. It's fresh rubber all the way around, full load of fuel, that'd be 40 gallons, 6.5 pounds a gallon, down off the jack, 13.1 seconds. That's very, very fast.
And all that work is paid off.
Well, and also, by the way, come into the pits as the Indy 3-time winner. Rick Mears is in the Penske pit as well. But, you know, it takes longer to put fuel in than it does to change rubber. So that's quite an interesting thing. But if you screw up, you are certainly seen to do so.
14.9, the time of the pit stop of Rick Mears. Al Unser Jr., he is the leader. Now, you notice that little on his dash right at the top, that yellow light, which means that, you know, your fuel is getting low, and he is coming in. Little Al's time, 15.7 seconds on his pit stop.
And there is the Porsche of Theo Fabi sitting there, very lonely. This is a car that had great expectations coming into IndyCar racing, has never come up to the promise expected. We have Helmut Flegel of Porsche, who's head of all research and development for that company over now, who's taken over the coordination between Germany and America. He's at this racetrack. He must be disappointed by this, because they certainly were expecting good things, as Bobby Rahal is now in the pits.
And perhaps the only pit stop that Bobby Rahal will make. That's what they're trying to get through the race on. I'm not sure they'll be able to, but we'll be keeping an eye on that.
I think he's come in a little too early to only make one pit stop, but they reckon that the Cosworth would be able to give them, or rather the Judd engine would give them the sort of economy that perhaps may do them the whole race with only one stop, but I doubt it now.
And we'll be back with more of our coverage of the Toronto Indy in just a moment.
Race car drivers have won with Champion than with any other spark plug in the world. It's not surprising that they chose Champion. After all, nobody likes to lose.
Come on, along, and head for the mountains of Bush. Big, head for the mountains. It's cold and it's smooth and it's waiting for you. Come on, head for the mountains of Bush. Big, Bush, big.
Ah, the natives are restless, building appetites at a fever pitch. It's summer hunger. Unleash it at Burger King. Enormous summertime sandwiches, big burgers, a huge flame-broiled Whopper, icy cold Pepsi. Summer hunger, when it strikes, only Burger King can tame it. Must be feeding time.
We do it like you do it at Burger King. Hungry.
Prior to owning the Chevrolet, I had a Ford. Well, I switched to the Chevy because I like the looks better than the Ford. I found out that they had completely redid the truck. You need a four-wheel drive truck. You don't want to have to get out and lock your wheels in. If you want to go into four-wheel drive, you can just shift into it. This Chevrolet truck is the best vehicle I have ever owned.
Heartbeat of America.
That's the Chevy truck. If you don't believe it, just go out and try it yourself.
We're back at the Toronto. Here is car number 24. That is Randy Lewis, and he has hit the wall again. He hit it in practice yesterday, and he has hit the wall again. Emerson Fittipaldi, who had the lead, came into the pits to make his first pit stop, and so he is going to drop back out of the lead, and just at that point, Randy Lewis went into the wall.
He's pretty keen to get out that race car, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
He's been untangling himself there from electronics to everything. He's quite happy to get out. He's had two serious accidents now in 2 days. You can see he's obviously bumped his leg a little bit, and he says, I'm okay, I'm fine. But he certainly whacked that wall. He'll have to go back to the field hospital to be checked out. That is the rule in IndyCar racing, and they're quite correct. You never know. You could have a mild fracture. And when the adrenaline is pumping, I know from having an accident myself, you don't feel pain. You don't feel broken bones. In fact, I've seen racing drivers quite seriously injured literally get out of a car. And here we see a replay of this incident. He's right out the groove. He's right out the groove, and look at that impact. Now, there is a deformable structure coming into play, literally in saving the driver by that car deforming in the fashion that it did. It diffused the energy, and that is why a driver such as that can come out of it without being unconscious, frankly.
Emerson Fittipaldi, that was when he was in the pits just as this was going on. What happened? Did something come loose and he went right to the wall?
I think he got into what we call the marbles. He wasn't in the groove, and he got on the outside where a lot of the dirt is thrown, and he was just out of line, I think. And as he continued round the corner, he was trying to still keep the power on and get round there, but there was no way, and he seriously hit that wall.
And this is the leader, Al Unser Jr., and that he's right behind his dad, Al Unser Sr. So it's Big Al and Little Al, but Big Al is a lap or so down in the race.
And, of course, now there's a mini Al, because Al Unser Sr., of course, is a grandfather. They've had a family and expecting another one is little Al, and there he passes Papa. I wonder if he'll give him a little wave. Let's see. No, I'm not waving to you, Daddy.
I'm busy right now. I'll talk to you later. 43 laps complete now for little Al Unser, who is running in first with Danny Sullivan, the number 9 car, running second. And in the background, you can see, of course, that's Exhibition Stadium, the home of the Blue Jays and the Argonauts. Let's go down to Gary Gerould.
Emerson Fittipaldi, on his stop, had a pit violation, ran over a piece of equipment. They just brought him in for a stop and go. I'll tell you, there's one Brazilian who's hot right now. He's left rubber all over this racetrack down here as he smoked the tires getting back out after a stop and go penalty.
And meanwhile, they're working on Randy Lewis's car.
Well, that pit violation probably was that he may have run over one of the airlines for removing the wheels. They've got these power wrenches, and what can sometimes happen if that line is not removed, if you roll over it, you are in violation of the regulations. They've got to be removed before you leave the pit. So that's the reason for that. Randy Lewis, the owner of this car, doesn't want to see his car damaged. He's hanging around to see it being taken away. My goodness, he's done a lot of damage in the last 2 days, says Randy.
And so, at the Toronto Indy, with 44 laps complete for the leader, it's Al Unser Jr., followed by Danny Sullivan. We'll be back with more IndyCar racing in a moment.
A special feature's coming your way from Domino's Pizza to ruin the Noise Day. It's a really big show, so don't be late. 2 regular cheese pizzas for just $8.88. Pay a bit more for toppings. It's all hot and fresh, because it's at your door in 30 minutes or less. Hurry, this won't last forever. Savings like these may be now or never. Domino's Pizza delivers savings.
Quaker State with QSX. How do you make a motor oil this good? You test it in the lab. You test it under the hood. You test it on the track.
Quaker State quality. We don't just talk about it, we live by it.
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. Want to make your pulse race? Come see the Quaker State Porsche race in the Quaker State 500 at Pocono Raceway, Sunday, August 21st. Call 1-800-RACEWAY.
Well, you know the bad news.
Charlie Carlson looks cool under pressure. But just because his shirt is dry doesn't mean he smells good. Because underarm odor is invisible, he needs Sure Solid. Sure helps protect against wetness and odor. So, Charlie, why go to work with a dry shirt and a false sense of security? Tomorrow, use Sure Solid and be just as sure about odor as you are about wetness.
I hear we have a new vice president.
Thanks.
An American tradition continues. His 521 career home runs are the most ever by a left-handed National League batter. Willie Stretch McCovey was the Giants' big number 44. Now, slugger Will Clark powers the Giants as they face the Cardinals, or the Expos meet the Reds. The tradition is here. The memories are waiting.
As we come back to Toronto, Ludwig Heimrath Jr., who is from Toronto, is out of the race.
And Lyondike's car is also out of the race as we look at the empty cockpit, in fact, of Ludwig Heimrath's car. He's left the office, and that camera will not be working today. I suspect they'll now try to get that car removed because it is a hazard. I dare say I don't know if they'll get it through that gap in the wall, but they may have to tow it somewhere else. Arie Luyendyk is also out. We saw him coming to a stop a little while ago, so he's out of the race also.
And so the race beginning to take its toll now with 50 laps complete. Al Unser Jr. is leading. Danny Sullivan is running second. Michael Andretti is running third as Mario Andretti, his father, and his cousin John Andretti are both out of the race. Emerson Fittipaldi, who had a stop-and-go penalty, had to come into the pit stop and then go. He managed to stay on the same lap and is currently, he's the defending champion. He is in 4th place.
There you see our leader driving as competently as ever. He really does deserve to win this race because he's driven very positively so far, and he really has been in command of the race as I can see it. He's a very good road racing driver. He is young. He was brought up in ovals much more than in road racing.
Now let's go down to Gary Gerould. Gary?
Well, the man who has got to be perhaps the most disappointed in
got going. The problem started during the parade lap, and I was suspecting maybe that I would have some hesitation at the start, but it was even more than that. I thought I could get it cleared up, but as it turned out, it got worse and worse, so I think it's an internal problem. But a flywheel, and they tried everything else that they could disconnect and pnew, but to no avail.
I know it's a big letdown because you and the crew, everybody was pretty happy after final practice the way things were running yesterday.
I was very, very happy with my car. Extremely happy. It was just running good, and yesterday, even in warm-up with full fuel, the car was just exceptionally quick. And,
well, there's next week, a course that you helped design at the Meadowlands. Hopefully the fortunes will be a little better. We'll be there to keep tabs with you, Mario. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mario Andretti out of the competition.
He, of course, out of the competition. Let's see who else is out. Kevin Kogan with that crash. He has a broken forearm, and it is being x-rayed. We have no further report on that. Daly is out. John Andretti out. Lewis and Heimrath. So electrical crash, clutch, fire, crash, and an engine. After 53 of 103 laps, Al Unser Jr. is leading. Danny Sullivan is second. Michael Andretti, Emerson Fittipaldi, and Rick Mears. Jr. continues to lead. Danny Sullivan is running second. Michael Andretti is running third. You can see the list all the way down through the top 10. 6 cars running on the same lap, the lead lap.
And now you can see Danny Sullivan is stuck behind Bobby Rahal there in the number 1 car, the red car. The white and gold car is that of Danny Sullivan. There's your leader, Al Unser Jr. And this bit of traffic may be holding up Danny Sullivan a little bit, but of course Bobby Rahal, keep in mind, has got a battle going also. He's looking to shorten the gap to Rick Mears, who's not far ahead of him at all.
And meanwhile, as Al Unser has now passed Bobby Rahal, Rahal is a lap down.
That's
He's
correct.
not on the lead lap anymore. You saw Rick Mears coming by, then little Al, and then Rahal and Danny Sullivan.
So now you're going to see in what develops right here. That's Danny Sullivan there, who's got through now. Little Al, Bobby Rahal. And there is Rick Mears. Little Al is right behind his own teammate, rather the teammate of Danny Sullivan. That'll be interesting to see if Rick Mears holds him up at all, because that's crucial for the race also. No, Rick hasn't.
Inside, no.
Rick hasn't let him through. So now this is quite interesting now, because he'll have to stick behind Rick Mears all the way around this twisty section. I don't think he'll get inside him here. No, Rick Mears chops him off. That's what you call Fermi Laporte if you're in Canada.
And so Al Unser Jr. leading little Al. He has led most of the race. Danny Sullivan was the early leader. Emerson Fittipaldi led for 4 or 5 laps right in the middle of the race.
And in the meantime, Bobby Rahal is causing a little bit of trouble for Danny Sullivan because he can't get past either. So it's a real business of trying to get through traffic here. Now you'll watch. This is where it's going to happen. Just after the next left-hander, and he's done it now. He's gone through. So little Al has gone through. Danny Sullivan will try and get past Rahal. He's also got to get past Rick Mears. He's done Rick Mears, but still behind Rahal. Now Rick Mears, in the meantime, has been passed by Rahal in that traffic configuration. So there's a change right there. So Bobby Rahal now goes up into 5th position. He was in 6th.
And little Al Unser now is free of the traffic, at least for the moment, as he comes through the hairpin, and we can look out in front of him to see if he has some racing room. And he does.
And it's still difficult for Sullivan to get past Rahal because Rahal's really on it. He's got the Judd engine, the engine that was originally financed partly by Honda. He's been running that. That's got a Chevy engine in it, as of course are the 2 leaders.
And Bobby Rahal also has always run well in the previous 2 events here at Toronto.
He's had a lot of success here. He won that first race 2 years ago here, and is quite a good road racing driver.
What's the difference in a road racing driver and an oval driver?
Well, I always think that oval track driving is a skill. All on its own. Very difficult, very finessed, and very clean form of driving. In road racing, you can just be a little bit more graunchy in there. Danny Sullivan goes underneath him at Prince's Gate, gets him exactly in the right spot there, and they both accelerate now to the fastest part of the racetrack. This is down the Lakeshore Boulevard up to a speed of about 175 miles an hour as they pass us. And now, again, Unser Jr. is getting into slow-moving traffic. This could be a crucial part of this race, but my reading of it so far is that Unser Jr. does have the legs of everybody else, even with traffic being taken into consideration, and so has Sullivan got himself some traffic there.
And Sullivan now right behind Little Al.
Oh, this is tight.
And he comes up inside of him.
This is a real... Oh, and there's Bobby Rahal sort of spun there. He managed to collect it, I think. Or was that car number 20? No, I think it was.
Howdy Holmes.
They were all getting a bit untidy there, and you saw Rahal's car getting out of shape just a wee bit as well. This is good racing at this point. Look at the crowd cheering there as we're looking for them, and Sullivan's right on his tail. As they come in here, Sullivan on the outside in the gold and white car, and he's taking a sweep here. Now, this is going to be interesting because they're now going on to a drafting part of the racetrack. Sullivan's got a 6-speed gearbox, whereas Unser's got a 5-speed. But look, Unser's car is drawing away. He must be getting better penetration through the air, and that usually means aerodynamics. He hasn't got quite as much wing on, and therefore the car is faster on a straight line, whereas Sullivan's car's got more aerofoil, more wing, and more downforce, potentially should be giving more grip on the corners.
And when you saw Little Al make the pass in the straightaway, he forced Sullivan to make the pass before the hairpin if he wanted to stay with it.
Correct.
And the car against his side, that's Ludwig Heimrath Jr. That car has been there for quite a while.
I would rather have seen that car be moved away, to be quite honest with you, in the interest of safety, because you saw in the slow-moving vehicles moving over to the right, there could be a misunderstanding there, and of course that would be a serious accident.
So now we come past the start-finish line.
And Little Al has opened up a bit of a gap again. It just seems to me that he can put the pressure on when he needs it, Charlie, and he can just have that little benefit of a cushion, which Danny Sullivan seems to be working hard to break down each time.
71 laps complete of 103, a total of 183 miles. And this is the Lakeshore hairpin as Little Al being chased by Danny Sullivan.
Danny Sullivan, of course, of Grand Prix racing experience, raced for the Tyrrell Formula One team. Unser Jr. being wooed and romanced a little bit towards Formula One. A lot of people would like to see a young American driver come over to America. It would be good for motor racing in general, not only for the Europeans and internationals, but also I think it would raise the interest of motor racing in general in the United States. Unser Jr., in my opinion, would be the ideal young man to go over there. Either him or Michael Andretti, but right now I would favor Unser to get over there. And I know that Danny Sullivan would like to go back if the right team were to give him the right offer.
Little Al Unser's leading. Danny Sullivan is running second, as you can see. Michael Andretti is third. We haven't seen him for a while. Emerson Fittipaldi is fourth, and those four are all on the same lap. And right now, Sullivan's pit crew seems to be as if they're getting ready, so he may be coming in the next time that he comes around.
Oh, and Little Al got held up quite a lot there in traffic. That was A.J. Foyt. A.J., very experienced driver who's racing more this year than any race
and enjoying it more. He was on pit wall a couple of days ago signing autographs, having his picture taken, laughing and smiling. He seemed like an entirely different person.
Unheard of. I call him the combination of the pussycat and the bear, because you just never know what's going to happen with him. And again, tight passing here as they go around here. Both of them get through the slower back marker there. But A.J. Foyt, going back to him, he's driving sports cars, he's driving NASCAR, he's driving Indycars. He's just racing on everything as Danny Sullivan comes into the pits.
He comes right into the pits. And now let's go down to Gary Gerould. Gary?
And Charlie, Sullivan hits the mark right on the dot. Last time it was 13.1 seconds. This should be the final stop of the day. A little problem getting the vent hose in. Fuel hose went in okay. No problem there as they make the change on the rubber. Everything appears to be routine. Now they just wait for the rest of the fuel, and down off the jacks he's rolling. This one is slower, however, 16.6 seconds for Sullivan.
And Danny Sullivan now out of the pits and still is in second place. So he is ahead of Michael Andretti. No, Michael Andretti, yes, that's it. Sullivan, I believe, is correct. Stays in second behind Little Al.
I think he may have just had Andretti pass him. As you can see, Al Unser Jr.'s pit preparing for him to come in. Michael Andretti may just have got out there in front.
Did he get him? I
think he just did get him. And here Al comes into the pits on his on camera. We can see him drawing into the pits.
Now let's go down to Sally Larvick. Sally?
Al Unser Jr. stops on the mark. Everything's working like clockwork with the Dallas racing team. They're changing 4 times. They have the car up on the jack. They're putting in a load of fuel. Al waiting patiently. He's down off the jack. And Al Unser Jr. Very good pit stop for the Dallas racing team.
So he picks up a little bit of time here.
It's how quickly you get into the pits and how quickly you get out. Sometimes not actually on the pit stop timing itself. It's your entry and exit.
Danny Sullivan's back in. Sullivan is back into the pits.
Oh, dear. That must have been a stop and go for a penalty.
Yes.
I think it was a cart penalty. I see a cart official over there. So he must have run over one of the airlines or something on the way out, and he's been brought in as a disciplinary measure. It may not have cost him anything on second place, but what it has cost him is time on the road.
Let's go down to Gary Gerould, see what happened. Gary?
Well, we've just arrived. We had gone back up to the Rahal pit. Was that for a lane violation going out? Yes, okay, that's what we assumed. They were told in the drivers' meeting when you exit the pits, only 2 wheels over the yellow line where you blend with the rest of the field. If all 4 wheels go over the line, it's a stop-and-go penalty. That happened earlier to Fittipaldi. It happened to Raul Boisel. Now it's happened to Danny Sullivan.
And it is the blend in review. This is Toronto Indy, and it is Al Unser who is leading. Michael Andretti is second. Sullivan is now third. In Toronto, let's go down to Gary Gerould in the pit.
Bobby Rahal in the pits waiting for the fuel to be topped off. He's been in 16 seconds now. Now he engages the clutch, 17.5 seconds as he storms away. It was not the fast, efficient stop that they had hoped for. Rahal, the only man this year who's been able to finish every event, however, still very much in the title points chase.
Gary, that was very close. He may have to come back in on a stop-and-go penalty because he had all 4 tires over the yellow line as he exited from the pit. And we have an official down there, and I believe we're going to have that call again.
Yeah, it looks like it. And there's Bobby Rahal, who's probably unconscious of that unless he has good radio contact with his pits to tell him to come back in next time.
What happens here, because when you exit the pits, you're so tight to the Princess Gate that you have to really hug the right side. You can put, there's a yellow and white line. You can put 2 tires over it, as we heard. You can't, if you put all 4 before, if you get out too soon, hey, you got to come back in. It's going to cost you a stop-and-go penalty.
I think the officials have been very nervous about the pit exit area because it's a very high-speed corner, and if somebody gets a bit wide, if someone is leaving the pits and does abuse that yellow, and here he does come in, he's going to come in, just stop, nothing will be done, and you'll see this stop and go. Look, he's going to bring him to a stop. The cart official is standing there in the white uniform. He's going to check, it's stop, and it's go.
All right, let's go down to Gary.
Well, you saw him in, you saw him out. That's got to be one of the most frustrating things that can happen to a racing driver, and I'm sure Jackie can relate to that. I don't know that they have stop and goes in Formula One, but it's the 5th time that it's happened. You can add Teo Fabi to the list of drivers who's been penalized thusly in this event here this afternoon in Toronto.
Well, at a drivers' meeting before this event, the drivers were instructed very heavily and severely about this regulation, and it is down to them. And there you can see his wife shaking her head, really disappointed by this, but it's in the regulations, my dear. The driver is told beforehand, but in the heat of war, if you like, some of those cautions go to the wind.
You just forget about them.
I'm afraid that's what it appears, because 5 drivers have forgotten about them so far, but racing drivers have never known to be Einsteins of this world, perhaps you might say.
Little Al Unser is leading, and he now has completed 78 laps, 78 out of 103 laps. And here's the race summary. Laps completed now 77. With 3 leaders, 3 lead changes, 89.77, the average speed, the cautions, 2 for 10 laps, out of the race, a total of 8. And here they are, out of the race. Mario Andretti, Kevin Kogan, we still know he is the only one of any injury with a broken forearm. Daly, John Andretti, Lewis, Lyondike, Heimrath, and Tay. Electrical crash, clutch, fire, crash, engine, and a gearbox. And as you saw the car against the fence, that is Ludwig Heimrath Jr., and that car apparently is going to stay there for the rest of the afternoon.
It looks like it. In some of these road courses, they have big cranes that remove those cars out of being an obstacle to the other racers, but I don't see any cranes around this racetrack, so I'm afraid it's going to have to stay there. It's not deemed to be in a particularly dangerous place by the officials, but I frankly am personally always nervous about any stationary vehicle on the racing surface.
Unser Jr., Little Al, continues to lead here at Toronto. Danny Sullivan is running second, and he had a stop-and-go penalty, and so he has dropped back rather than challenging him. He, although in on the same lap. Now let's go down to Gary Gerould. Gary?
And in the Pat Patrick pit, here's Emerson Fittipaldi. Remember, he was one of those victims for a stop-and-go on his first pit stop today when he exited. They'll be watching closely. It's a routine tire change, and also they need at least 30 gallons of fuel. They've disengaged the hoses off the jack. 13.3 seconds. Now, let's see if he blends in okay.
He does. He makes the point. You saw the yellow stripe, and that is it. He split it all the way down, so there's no problem on Emerson Fittipaldi as he goes back to racing.
He's allowed to have 2 wheels across it, but not 4.
And that is A.J. Foyt that he fixed it. We noticed a move earlier in the race at A.J. when he's caught back in traffic. He's not running all that well today. And when the leaders came on him, he moved over and just waved them by and pointed to the right line and let them go.
Well, I'm afraid that looks just like, frankly, a good racing gentleman at work, because he's such a pro. He's been doing it for so many years. There's no reason for him to block anybody, and that's where you see the professional side of A.J. Foyt coming out. I said he's the pussycat and the bear. Some days you couldn't, I mean, butter melts in his mouth. Other days, my goodness, he's going to bite you so hard you'll never forget it. But at the moment, he is the pussycat, and he's a very nice and quiet and mellow man. But of course, he's had a tremendous amount of success. 4 times Indianapolis champion. He's won the Le Mans 24-hour race. One of the most versatile racing drivers in the world today. You could put him into anything. Put him into a dirt car today, and he drives like the champion he has been many times in that category.
Al Unser Jr. is leading, and unofficially we have him with 16 seconds to lead over Danny Sullivan, who is running in second, and Michael Andretti is running third. Emerson Fittipaldi. Those are the 4 cars all on the lead lap.
Al Unser Jr. driving along there in control, not working the steering wheel very hard at this time, and he now gets into the heavy braking area. You can see him there staying in a fairly easy position, looking away past one of the slower cars. Whoops, it is a second guess on that one. The other car, the slower car, did not see him. Now he gets up behind AJ again, and we'll see another maneuver coming from AJ. Look, you see, there he goes. He's pointing. Go past that side. Now there you see the experience of him. He put his hand high enough for Al Unser Jr. to see that. So this is the type of awareness that the older, more experienced drivers have. The rear view mirrors in those cars, incidentally, are not quite the size of your bathroom mirror, and the vibration in those cars is very high, so it's not easy sometimes. Sometimes you've got to rely on the flag marshals, a blue flag, to let you know that someone's in close proximity. If it's really been waved, they're attempting to pass you.
Let's go down to Gary Gerould.
Well, with 20 laps to go with Rick Gallis. Rick, how are the nerves? What's your situation at this point with about a 15-second lead?
Well, you know, he's doing a good job out there as usual, and we've had our problems, but the guy's made 2 good pit stops, and if we can take care of the race car, it looks like we got a chance.
What kind of problems?
You know, we made that mistake on that first coming in the pits, things like that, but the guys have overcome that, and Al's done a good job.
Okay. If you have enough fuel, I assume that should not be a problem the rest of the way?
Shouldn't be a problem. We don't think it'll be a problem.
All right. Thanks, Rick.
And that was the pit, of course, of Al Unser Jr., who is leading. And what he was talking about, the problem he had earlier in the race when they were under the yellow, then Al Unser Jr. came in, and then he decided not to come in and just kept going, racing all the way down through pit road, came back out, got in behind the pace car.
Well, he is, and there he comes up behind Theo Fabi, who we saw earlier in this race come to a stop. He lost 3 laps, the car got itself restarted, and now he's back in the race. This is the Porsche car. Porsche Engineering, of course, is famous, and the great research and development department they have within the motor industry. And it's now being stalked by Al Unser Jr. This is the picture from Al's car on the main back straight. Shoreline Boulevard. He's won over $3,200,000 out of motor racing in his career. Very talented man, a very rich young man now. A racing driver in the United States doing this series is probably pulling in close to about $2 million a year, I would think, by next year for young Al Unser. Been tempted to go to Europe, where, of course, you can earn more money in Grand Prix racing. The top drivers there up to $6 million, but it'll be difficult for him to leave such a comfortable and competitive team.
And Al Unser Jr., Little Al, continues to lead at Toronto. We'll be back with more of our race coverage in just a moment. To lead very comfortably over Danny Sullivan. As you can see the rundown now through the top 10 with Mears, Boiselle, Jones, Unser, 1, 2, and Howdy Holmes 3 laps down. Raul Boiselle 1 lap down is in the 7th spot. He drives, of course, for Domino's Pizza. Race summary, 85 laps complete, 3 leaders. Lead changes 3, average speed 89.39. Cautions 2 for 10 laps, and we have 8 cars out of the race. And there is the leader, Little Al, and he has a margin of 13 seconds over Danny Sullivan, who is running second, and that you can... The difference right now was a stop-and-go penalty charge to Sullivan when he had to come into the pit stop and then was allowed to go out for violation of the blend-in rule coming out of the pit.
That was a very expensive stop from Danny Sullivan. He'll remember that because literally it has cost him this motor race. And, of course, the point standing in the kart championship is very important at this point also, because a win here is a lot of points for young Al Unser Jr. Although a second place would keep Danny Sullivan, he would go into the lead on this championship at this point by finishing second.
The winner, of course, receiving 20 points. Second place is worth 16, and then it goes 14, 12, 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you add those up in the tightest driving race that we have had in many years.
A very competitive season, unlike Formula One Grand Prix racing this year, which has not at all been competitive or good television for that matter. This kart Indy season has been very competitive indeed. It's been a good spectator event, and we see today a good example of that. This has been a good race for television.
And a look at the leader, Little Al Unser Jr. Interesting that his dad is in the race driving the number 2 car for Roberto Guerrero, who is watching the race in San Juan Capistrano, and Big Al will be driving in next week in the Meadowlands. And a couple of times that Little Al has come up behind him. Big Al has not given, he hasn't stepped to the side at all. In fact, Little Al has made the statement that my dad taught me everything that I know, but he hasn't taught me everything that he knows.
Well, I think that's a nice touch. He's greatly admiring his father. In every interview I've heard Little Al do, he's praised his father to the highest because, of course, he respects his father enormously, and Daddy has taught him a great deal. But certainly I was surprised to see how firmly he closed the door in him when he was trying to get past just a little while ago. He had to make his own way. There were no presents in the cupboard.
Coming around the hairpin and then making the left-hand turn, that stadium turn, and then Little Al heads for the sweeper, the long sweep that sets up the S's, and then coming back down into exhibition curve in the start-finish line. Had a little bit of trouble in that right-hand turn when it gets congested, but right now there's a lot of open space to maneuver through as Little Al works his way now through the S's.
Well, this is where a street course such as this is so complicated. Once you get behind a pack of cars who perhaps are racing for position, they've got their own race going. They're not going to move over and let you through. You've got to make your own way. And when that lapping exercise takes place, you've got to be very careful that you don't go in where angels would fear to tread, because sometimes you can have somebody chop you off, damage a front wing, and that can be your race all over right there.
Now down the back straight, that's Lakeshore Boulevard, 0.6 of a mile when he comes into the Lakeshore hairpin. And then again up to the stadium turn right by Exhibition Stadium, the home of the Blue Jays and the Argonauts, where he makes a left-hand turn, and through the sweeper once again. He's really running well, isn't he?
Yes, he's shown to be a very mature driver at a very young age. I'm very impressed by Al Jr. I think he could really be a serious racing driver in the long term. I would love to see him come over and drive in the Grand Prix season, though. I'd just love to see him do that. I think it would help. And look at that, plus 10 Sullivan, Al Unser Jr. Now, it was 13 seconds, remember? So Sullivan has closed it by 10 seconds. I don't think there's enough laps left in this race for him to do it. But remember last year's finish, Sullivan was 4 seconds behind going into the last lap and darn nearly won the race. So this race isn't over until the checkered flag, so don't switch to another channel.
So it is Al Unser Jr. with 90 laps complete. Danny Sullivan running second, trying to close down that gap on him, because if he can close it down, or if they run into a full course yellow, then it could be an interesting finish.
Oh, yes, and a lot can happen on a road course. You know, a driver only needs to drop his concentration just a tiny bit. You get so close to the walls, you just have to kiss one of those walls, and you burst a wheel, you burst a tire, or you break a suspension unit. It's happened before. Ayrton Senna did it in the Grand Prix of Monaco earlier this year with only a handful of laps still to go. Just an error through a little bit of fatigue and tiredness. Al Unser Jr. works out very hard. He's a fit young man. He weighs about 145 pounds. He looks a little chubby around the cheeks, but he's strong underneath there, and he does a lot of weight training and fitness.
And we're looking back to Danny Sullivan. And we're still looking. Here he comes. So he's still trying to close some of the time down on Little Al, and he has a couple of cars he's going to have to work his way through. Now it's 12 seconds. The difference now is 12 seconds. Let's go down to Gary Gerould.
Charlie, we were just thinking back to earlier in the season at Long Beach. It was almost a similar situation when Little Al had the lead. Sullivan was challenging in second. Late in the race, about 10 or 12 laps to go, he broke a crank, knocked him out, didn't get finishing points. Then, in the last 3 events, he's come from 23rd up into actual tie for the lead in points. They made some changes in the Chevrolet engine program after Long Beach because of that failure. They haven't had problems like that since. He just wishes he could get up there and possibly make one of those miracle runs like Jackie alluded to here a year ago when he challenged Emerson Fittipaldi on the last lap. Little Al went on to win that one down at Long Beach, of course, for his only victory of the season.
So Little Al Unser continues to lead here at Toronto. Danny Sullivan is chasing him, but he's not catching him.
Chevy S10 invites you to own.
93 laps complete with just under now 10 laps to go. Al Unser Jr. leading Danny Sullivan. That has been the battle. Sullivan unable to close on him. Got within 10 seconds. And then Little Al, as you look at the race summary, put a hot lap on him. He dropped back, and that basically that can kind of break your enthusiasm, Jackie.
Oh, it breaks the spirit, and that's exactly what Al Unser Jr. did. I saw him put the hot lap in after Danny Sullivan had really been putting in a lot of pressure. Suddenly, he thought he was going to do it, but it just wasn't possible. So therefore, I think Al Unser, as I said earlier, really has controlled the pace of this race very positively. Danny Sullivan, the car that you're looking at, of course, entered by Roger Penske, the all-powerful team. They led Indianapolis. Danny Sullivan led with this car. Rick Mears, he's here as well running, and right now Rick Mears is down, in fact, in 6th position right now, and somebody spun around there. That's car number 16.
Tony Bettenhausen.
Tony Bettenhausen's had a very slow weekend. It looks to me like that rear tire's flat too.
And Danny Sullivan went by him, so it'll be a yellow only in that part of the course, not a full course yellow. But as you saw, Sullivan had to slow down as he was creeping by him, so he's going to drop back even further behind the leader. So luck does also enter into it, because when these things happen, if they happen away from you, particularly on a road course, then it's not going to affect you nearly as much as your competitors.
No, and he's right on the groove. He's in a dangerous position there. I would really like them to move that car away.
Now 9 laps to go as Little Al has gone by the start-finish line. No, excuse me, 8 laps to go.
Now on the back stretch, and look, they're not even getting this car out of that position. I don't know what the story is here. It looks like that rear tire's flat. Do you think that's flat? It looks flat to me. They're having trouble pushing it for that reason. Whether he kissed the wall there, I don't know, but they really are taking too long to move that car from that position.
And now let's go down to Gary Gerould.
Robo-Cell came in to get some service. We saw that the left nose wing was gone, and also the nose cone has been damaged. So he obviously was in some kind of a fracas somewhere. Maybe he caught a piece of the action you referred to Benthausen a few moments ago.
And then number 30, that's because they'll deliver Domino pizzas in 30 minutes. That's where that came up.
Isn't that amazing?
Don't you love it? Here's Little Al, the leader.
And he's driving so maturely, so cleanly. I'm impressed.
And everything on the car seems to be working. The left front wing gone, as you saw in Raul Boisel. And that's what Gary Gerould was talking about.
Goes back on to this back main stretch here. He'll still be cracking up. Even if you take your time, you still do 175 miles an hour down there, even with only 7 laps to go. Heavy under braking here. Then into, and look, that car's still sitting there. It's really not suitable to leave it there. They've got to move that car.
But is there time without going to a
they should have the equipment there to move that, I would have thought, without a full course yellow. He's removed himself from the car, that's for sure. He said, I'm not sitting here waiting to be thumped.
Little Al Unser making the right-hand turn. This sets up the series of S's into exhibition curve and then past the start-finish line.
Comfortable lead at this time, taking no chances. It's not good to back off at this time. You've got to keep the pressure on because tiredness does play a part. Fatigue comes in. He'll probably lose about 5 or 6 pounds of weight today out there in the temperature that we're in, and that takes a lot out of you. And if you just get physically tired, you then get mentally tired. You make the slightest error of judgment, and at this stage in the race, it's easy to do. For me, the most dangerous part of the race, in fact, was the last 20 laps. When I get down to only 10 laps to go, such as he's now only got 6 laps to run, I would then get my teeth back into the apple. I wouldn't let myself get tired anymore. With only 10 laps to go, it's a countdown. But what you're doing is suddenly you're becoming so aware of everything. You're frightened that the car has got a vibration that you never felt before. You're frightened that you're going to be held up in traffic. But now he's got himself well ahead of Danny Sullivan, and he really has a cushion, and he'll be being well informed by his pit.
And so at a comfortable stage, all things being relative, Little Al continues to lead. Danny Sullivan with Michael Andretti running third. Emerson Fittipaldi is fourth. And then a lap down, Bobby Rahal, Rick Mears, John Jones, the rookie from Canada. He's from Thunder Bay. 2 laps down, Raul Boisel, Al Unser Sr. 4 down, Theo Fabi, Howdy Holmes, and Scott Brayton.
Still, Danny Sullivan keeps the pressure on. He's a driver who's also very fit. He's in very good physical shape, is Danny. One of the most glamorous young racing drivers in the world today, is often seen out with pretty ladies at social functions. He's quite a little jet setter, is our Danny. Does sunglass adverts, does clothing adverts, does, oh, I don't know, he's a male model when he has the time. And he's done, of course, lots of television shows. He did Miami Vice, and of course, he served his time over in my old team, Tyrrell. When I was driving in Formula One way back, Danny Sullivan was sweeping the floor in the Tyrrell workshops. That's for sure. That's a fact.
Al Unser Jr. leading, and earlier we had a chance to talk to Al. We asked you about his team owner, Rick Gallis, who compares IndyCar racing to an NFL game.
Rick Gallis, my car owner, has said that to win the races is almost like football games, the way the NFL has gotten, to where you keep yourself in the running until the last 2 minutes of the ball game, and then that's when you score the field goal or whatever to win the game. And the IndyCars, the way the teams have gotten, the quality of them is so high that you got to keep yourself in the running in the race until the last 10 minutes or the last 20 or 30 miles, and then that's when you win the race, is preparing yourself for this point.
And this is the point they've been preparing themselves for. Gary Gerould is now in Little Al's pit.
Charlie, it's interesting down here that one of the things that's most watched is a little monitor on the back of, actually underneath the fuel tank, where they have a chance to see the onboard camera. And the crew from time to time has been peering intently in here, and we got the feeling they were trying to check on something specifically. And what they're trying to do is determine what kind of RPMs that he is pulling as he goes around this course. So as they count down the final laps, this has been a very popular spot down here. They're looking over everybody's shoulder trying to get the view that we're seeing from the onboard camera as well.
I wish they'd have cleaned the lens the last time he came through the bend.
You know, this full-service lane they have down here has done a poor job. I wouldn't give these guys a tip at all. We have telemetry in a very big way in Grand Prix racing today. As the car goes around the racetrack, we see all the temperatures inside of every cylinder. We see the revs in every corner. We have tremendous investment in electronics now in Grand Prix motor racing, and this still is yet to come to this type of motor racing, but it's certainly on the way. But they bring a lot of stuff. It's interesting to note how many people those teams bring to those racetracks. The Penske team, for example, bring about 30 people, and we went right down the garage area this morning and saw the smaller teams who in fact only bring along with them about 4 people to look after them. But it's a big budget to run these Grand Prix teams or kart Indy teams today. It's about a minimum of about $5 million a year in sponsorship they're looking for if you're a Penske or if you're a Carl Haas running Mario Andretti, and that's without paying the driver in most cases.
Is this the fun from a driver's standpoint? Is the fun coming out of it? Or is it still just as much fun?
Oh, you still get a lot of enthusiasm for driving. I mean, quite frankly, Unser Jr. today, it doesn't matter how much money he wins. He doesn't care about that. He's doing it because he's a professional racing driver. Of course he gets paid for it, but that's never in his mind, well, I'm going to pick up X number of dollars if I just keep going a few more laps. Only 2 laps in his case. So therefore, that doesn't play any part at all. It's a question of driving with the enthusiasm, the spirit that he has for motor racing. And there's nothing more satisfying at this stage in his life than winning a race such as this around such a demanding course.
And he has truly been a dominating factor here in Toronto. Little Al Unser Jr. coming now to take the white flag. There it is. From Nick Finoro, the starter. His assistant is Terry Walsh, and we have 1 lap to go.
Now he is not going to make any mistakes. He's going to stay well away from all the walls. He's not going to miss any gear shifts. He now has to work out how far away he is from the finishing line so that he can even coast home if necessary. That's what's going on in his mind. Let's not make any mistakes. Let's get round the obstacles such as that still parked racing car round the stadium. Being very quiet in his transmission, being very quiet on his gas pedal, not overdoing the brakes on this one. This will not be a fast lap. Danny Sullivan, on the other hand, can't afford to let up, because if something were to go wrong with Unser Jr., he wants to be able to eat up the road. So his final lap will undoubtedly be faster than Al's.
And little Al still comfortably with the lead over Danny Sullivan, and he comes into exhibition curve and heads for the start-finish line. There it is, the checkered flag for little Al.
And the crowd are enthusiastic. They think he's driven a good race, and they are right. Checkered flags all over the place.
And there's Danny Sullivan taking second. Almost 12 seconds.
Dennis Torres has joined me on the set with the story of the 1988 Suzuki National Cup Finals. And Dennis, I understand that the story includes a lot of handlebar banging.
Larry, let's put it this way. When you put up a